The big drill machine made loud noises as it hit something very hard deep in the ground. Hana Kim looked at the small computer in her hands. The numbers on the screen did not make sense. They had been digging on this empty planet for 3 months, and now they found something strange. "Stop the machine," she called to Daeho Park. He was running the drill from a small cabin on top. The loud noise stopped. Now they could only hear the wind blowing across the rocky ground. Daeho jumped down from the machine. His heavy boots made crunching sounds on the loose rocks. "What did we hit? The drill is broken now." Hana looked at her computer again. The numbers still looked wrong. "Metal, but not normal metal. This is harder than anything we know how to make." The other workers came to see what happened. Thelquin was very tall and looked like he was made of clear crystal. He came from a planet far away. He pressed a button on a small box that helped him talk in human words. "How deep did we dig?" 4,000 meters, Daeho said. "Whatever this thing is, it has been down there for a very long time." Fluxaran had blue skin that was always wet. She came from a water planet to work on this dig. "Our map said there was nothing down there, only old rocks and dirt." Hana had been digging up old things for 15 years. She had found many interesting things before, but this felt different. This planet had old buildings on top that showed smart people lived here millions of years ago. That was why many different space people came here to study. "We need to dig more," Hana said. "If something this big is down there, we need to see how big it really is." They worked for many days. They used smaller tools now so they would not break whatever was down there. The other workers took turns, but Hana stayed in the hole almost all the time. 4 days later, they found the first piece of the outside wall. The metal was like nothing Hana had ever seen. It looked black when no light hit it, but when light touched it, it showed colors that moved and changed. The surface was perfectly smooth. There were no scratches even though it had been buried for so long. "This is amazing," said Dr. Yuki Tanaka. She was another human who studied old machines. "Look how it was made. No lines where pieces were put together. No marks from tools. It looks like it grew instead of being built." Thelquin touched the surface with his crystal fingers. "My people have written records going back 50,000 years. We have never seen anything like this." That night, the team sat in their small houses and talked about what they found. Hana could not stop thinking about the buried thing. It looked like some kind of ship, but it was huge. They had only uncovered a small part, but it was already as big as a city block. She decided to look at it one more time before going to sleep. The dig site was quiet now. Only work lights lit up the deep hole. Hana climbed down the metal stairs they had built and stood on the smooth surface. She did not really think about what she was doing. She got down on her knees and put her hand on the strange metal. The surface started glowing under her hand. Lines of light ran out from where she touched. They went across the metal surface in patterns that looked like writing. The symbols were beautiful. They flowed like water but were exact like math. They glowed with soft blue light that made the whole dig site bright. Hana pulled her hand back fast, but the lights kept glowing for a few more seconds before they slowly went dark. "What was that?" Daeho's voice came from above. He was climbing down with his tools still in his hands. "I don't know," Hana said. She looked at her hand. It looked normal, but she could feel a small tingling feeling. "When I touched it, the whole thing lit up." More people came down to see what happened. Thelquin came down carefully. His crystal body reflected the work lights. "What happened here?" Hana told them what she saw. The space people looked at each other with worried faces. "Let me try," Fluxaran said. She put both her hands on the metal surface. Nothing happened. Thelquin tried next. He put his whole hand flat against the metal. Still nothing. "Hana," Daeho said quietly, "try it again." She was scared, but she got down and touched the metal again. Right away, the symbols blazed with bright light. This time she could see that the patterns went far beyond their small hole. Lines of light disappeared into the darkness in all directions. Whatever was buried here was really, really big. "Only humans," Thelquin said. His voice sounded amazed. "The ship only responds when humans touch it." Dr. Tanaka was running around with her machines, trying to measure everything. "The energy is incredible, but I don't see any dangerous radiation. It's like the ship is trying to talk to us." "Ship?" Fluxaron asked. "Look at the patterns," Hana said. She kept her hand on the surface. "This is not random. Someone made these on purpose. And the shape we found looks like the outside of a ship. The lights pulsed in what looked like a rhythm. Hana thought it looked like a heartbeat, or like breathing. Something alive but sleeping." "We need to call the coalition right away," Deho said. "This is much bigger than what we came here to do." Hana nodded but did not take her hand away. The feeling was getting stronger, like a gentle shaking going up her arm. It did not hurt. It was more like the ship was trying to tell her something. "There's something else," she said. "I think this thing has been waiting." "Waiting for what?" Dr. Tanaka asked. Hana looked at her friends, both human and alien. "For us. For humans. I don't know how or why, but I think this ship has been buried here waiting for humans to find it." Everyone got very quiet when she said this. If she was right, then everything they thought they knew about human history was wrong. How could an old alien ship, buried for millions of years, be made to only work for humans? The lights pulsed brighter one more time before they slowly went dark. But even in the darkness, Hana could still feel that strange connection. It was like the ship was sleeping but knew she was there. Tomorrow they would need to call very important people. But tonight, Hana Kim sat in the dark next to an impossible ship and wondered what secrets were waiting down below. The big coalition ships came down from space 3 days later. Their engines made loud roaring sounds as they landed near the dig site. Hana watched from the observation tower as military ships unloaded equipment and people. Admiral Wu Jin Lee stepped out of the main ship. His clean uniform looked very different from the dirty work clothes the dig team had been wearing for months. "Dr. Kim," the admiral said as he walked up to her, "I read your reports, but I need to see this myself." Behind him came many officials and scientists. Hana knew some of the humans, but there were also alien important people she had only seen on news shows. Ambassador Velthara from the Crystal People moved very carefully. Representative Flux then from the Water People flowed across the ground like living water. "This way, Admiral," Hana said. She led the group toward the bigger dig site. For 3 days, the team had worked day and night to uncover more of the buried ship. What they found was shocking. The ship was huge, at least 2 kilometers long and half that wide. The hull still looked perfect and unmarked even though it had been buried under millions of tons of rock. Dr. So-Young Choi came on the first transport ship. She studied languages and brought boxes full of translation equipment and smart computer systems that could figure out unknown languages. "Have you tried to make contact with the ship again?" Admiral Lee asked as they went down into the dig site. "Only simple tests," Hana said. "Every time a human touches the hull, the symbols appear. But we haven't found a way to get inside yet." Jin Woo Nam was a military expert who came with Admiral Lee. He was already looking at the uncovered parts with professional eyes. "The way it's positioned is on purpose," he said. "This wasn't a crash. Someone buried this ship deliberately." Ambassador Velthara's translation device made crackling sounds as she spoke. "The Crystal People's records contain no information about such technology. This is older than our earliest space-traveling civilizations, which raises difficult questions," Representative Flux then added. His voice had the liquid sounds of his species. "How does a ship this old respond only to humans? Your species has only been in space for 300 years. Admiral Lee nodded with a serious face. "That's exactly what the Coalition Council wants to know." Hana led them to the area where she had first activated the ship's responses. Dr. Choi, this is where the symbols appear most clearly. So Young unpacked her equipment while the important officials watched. I'll need you to activate the display first, Dr. Kim. Then I can start recording and studying the patterns. Hana got down on her knees and put both hands on the hull. The response happened right away and was stronger than before. Lines of light raced across the exposed surface, making complex symbols that pulsed with soft blue energy. The patterns were more detailed now, like the ship was responding to more humans being there. Incredible, So Young whispered. Her machines were recording everything. The complexity is amazing. This isn't just decoration or warning signs. This is definitely a written language. Jin Woo pointed to a section where the symbols looked like geometric patterns. These look almost like technical drawings. Can you read any of it? Admiral Lee asked. So Young shook her head. Not yet, but there are similarities to some very old human languages, very ancient ones from Earth. It's like this writing system influenced human language development. But that's impossible. Ambassador Velthara moved closer. Her crystal body reflected the blue light. Perhaps not impossible. Perhaps just unexpected. The symbols continued to pulse and change as Hana kept her hands on the hull. Some sections seemed to respond to her thoughts or feelings, getting brighter when she focused on them. There, she said suddenly, that pattern keeps repeating. It's like it's trying to tell me something specific. So Young pointed her cameras toward the area Hana was looking at. It's definitely a repeating pattern, almost like a signature or name. Representative Flux then spoke privately with other water people who had come with him. Their liquid conversation was fast and seemed worried. Finally, he spoke to the group. The water people have old stories about a race that spread their children across the galaxy before disappearing. We thought these were only stories. What kind of stories? Admiral Lee asked. The legends speak of the first travelers who visited thousands of worlds and left behind sleeping guardians. The stories say these guardians would wake up only when their children returned with wisdom and strength. Jin Woo looked up from his analysis. Children. You mean descendants. The human genetic code has always had some unusual parts, So Young said thoughtfully. Sequences that don't match evolution patterns we see in other species. Scientists have theorized about ancient influences, but never anything like this. Hana felt the ship pulse under her hands, almost like it was responding to their conversation. The symbols grew brighter, and new patterns began appearing in sections they had not seen before. It's listening, she said with certainty. Somehow, this ship knows what we're saying. Admiral Lee turned on his communicator. Colonel Harris, I need a full science team down here immediately. Biology, genetics, languages, and engineering. Priority Alpha. As if called by his words, a new section of the hull began to glow. The symbols there were different, more complex and three-dimensional. They seemed to float above the surface, making shapes that looked almost like star maps. Are those coordinates? Jin Woo asked. So Young was quickly adjusting her equipment to record the new displays. The mathematical relationships are consistent with star navigation, but these star positions don't match current galaxy maps. How old are they? Ambassador Velthara asked. Based on how stars move over time, I'd estimate these maps are at least 2 million years old. Everyone realized what this meant at the same time. 2 million years ago, humans did not exist as a space-traveling species. Earth was just beginning to develop complex life forms. Yet here was a ship that responded only to humans, showing star maps from millions of years before human civilization existed. This changes everything, Admiral Lee said quietly. Representative Flux then's form rippled with what Hana had learned to recognize as deep worry. The coalition will need to think very carefully about how to proceed. Technology of this level could change the balance of power in the galaxy, or destroy it completely. Ambassador Velthera added. Hana felt the ship pulse again, stronger this time. The feeling traveled up her arms and seemed to vibrate in her chest. It was not painful, but it was definitely getting stronger. "Admiral," she said, "I think the ship wants us to do something. The responses are getting more intense." "What kind of something?" Before Hana could answer, a new section of the hull began to glow. This time, the light was not blue but gold, and it formed a perfect rectangle about the size of a doorway. The symbols around it pulsed in a clear rhythm, like an invitation. "I think," Hana said, staring at the golden light, "it wants us to come inside." Admiral Lee looked at the alien representatives, then at his human colleagues. "Dr. Kim, I want you to step away from the ship immediately." But as Hana lifted her hands from the hull, the golden light began to fade. The moment she lost contact, all the symbols dimmed and started to disappear. "Wait!" So Young called out. "The language patterns are changing. The ship is trying to communicate something specific." Hana looked at Admiral Lee. "Sir, whatever this ship is, it's been waiting here for millions of years. I don't think it's going to hurt us." "You don't know that." "No," Hana agreed, "but I think we're about to find out." The golden rectangle pulsed like a heartbeat as Hana walked toward it again. Admiral Lee had spent 2 hours talking with Coalition officials before finally agreeing to let her make contact. Now, with recording equipment running and medical scanners, watching her health, she put her hands on the glowing section of hull. What happened next was immediate and overwhelming. The rectangular outline blazed with golden light, and suddenly the solid metal was not there anymore. Where there had been solid hull moments before, now there was an opening that led into soft blue light. "Incredible," Dr. So-Young whispered. "The molecular structure just changed. The metal became permeable only in that exact section." Daeho stepped up beside Hana. His engineering mind was already trying to understand how this was possible. "How can you just change matter like that?" "Apparently you can," Jinwoo said, checking his scanners. "I'm reading an atmosphere inside. Breathable for humans, actually. Perfect oxygen-nitrogen mix." Admiral Lee turned on his communicator. "All teams, we have a confirmed opening. Proceeding with first entry protocol." Hana looked into the blue-lit passage beyond the opening. It curved gently away from view, with walls that seemed to glow with their own inner light. "I'm going in. Not alone," the Admiral said firmly. "Dae-ho, Jinwoo, you're with her. Full protective gear and constant communication." The 3 humans stepped through the opening together. The moment they crossed the threshold, Hana felt a strange sensation, like stepping from one world into another. The air was warm and somehow cleaner than anything she had ever breathed. "The technology level is incredible," Daeho said, running his hands along the walls. "These surfaces are perfectly smooth, but they're not metal. They feel almost organic." The passage opened into a vast chamber that took their breath away. The ceiling stretched impossibly high, filled with slowly moving lights that looked like stars. Along the walls, panels covered in symbols glowed softly, and in the center of the room stood something that could only be described as a control center. "This is bigger than our entire research station," Jinwoo said, scanning the room with his instruments. "How did they fit all this inside the hull dimensions we measured?" Hana approached the central console. It was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at, made of materials that seemed to shift between crystal and metal and something else entirely. As she got closer, symbols began appearing on its surface. "Dr. Kim," Admiral Lee's voice crackled through, their communicators. "What are you seeing in there?" "A control room," Hana replied. "And I think the ship is trying to talk to us." The symbols on the console were more complex than the ones on the hull. They moved and changed, forming patterns. That seemed almost familiar. Hana had the strangest feeling that she should be able to read them. "So Young," she called into her communicator. "Are you getting this?" recording everything. The language structure is becoming clearer. There are definite grammar patterns emerging. Daeho was examining other sections of the room. There are access panels everywhere, but they only respond when we get close. It's like the whole ship is designed specifically for human interaction. As if responding to his words, a new section of the central console lit up. This time, instead of symbols, a three-dimensional image appeared in the air above the platform. It showed a figure that looked unmistakably human, but somehow different. Taller, perhaps, with features that seemed more refined. The image began to speak in a language that sounded hauntingly familiar, even though none of them had ever heard it before. "So young," Hana called urgently. "Please tell me you're recording this." Every word. The language structure is incredibly sophisticated, but there are clear roots that connect to human language development. It's like this is the source language that influenced all human speech. The holographic figure continued speaking, and gradually Hana began to understand fragments of meaning, not the words themselves, but the intent behind them. Welcome, recognition, long waiting, purpose, Jin Wu's. Scanners were going crazy. I'm detecting massive power sources throughout the ship, but the energy readings don't match anything in our databases. This is beyond anything the Coalition has ever seen. The holographic figure gestured, and new images appeared around them. Star maps showing galaxy-wide travel routes, technical diagrams of ships and technologies, and most remarkably, images of worlds being transformed from barren rock into garden planets. "Terraforming," Daeho breathed. "They're showing us terraforming on a galactic scale." More images followed, civilizations rising and falling. Wars that spanned star systems. And through it all, the tall humanoid figures, watching and guiding from the shadows. This is a historical record, Hana realized. They're showing us their history. The figure spoke again, and this time Hana caught more of the meaning. The words spoke of children sent to distant worlds, of knowledge preserved for the day of return, of tests and trials that would determine worthiness. "Dr. Kim," Admiral Lee's voice was urgent. "We're detecting Coalition military ships approaching, multiple fleets. This is about to become very complicated." Hana looked at the holographic figure, which seemed to be looking directly back at her. "Can you understand me?" she asked. The figure nodded and spoke a single word in perfect unaccented human language. Yes, the simplicity of it was staggering. After millions of years, this ancient intelligence could still speak to them in their own language. "Who are you?" Hana asked. "What is this ship?" "I am Guardian 7, the figure replied. "This vessel is an inheritance cache, prepared for the children of the Vel Ashan. You call yourselves human now, but you are our descendants, scattered across the galaxy when the great darkness fell." Daeho and Jinwoo exchanged glances. "Descendants?" "Your ancestors fled the collapsing empire in great ships, seeding dozens of worlds with their genetic legacy. Earth was one of many refuge worlds, chosen for its compatibility with Velashan biology." "That's impossible," Jinwoo said. "Human evolution is well documented. We evolved from earlier primates on Earth." Guardian 7 smiled, an expression that looked both ancient and infinitely sad. "Evolution was guided, just as development was influenced. Your species carries markers in your genetic code that activate in response to Velashan technology. This is why the ship responds only to you." Outside, they could hear the roar of more ships landing. Admiral Lee's voice was tense as he coordinated with the arriving fleets. "The others know," Guardian 7 said. "Some have suspected for millennia. Some have worked to prevent this day." "What others?" Hana asked. "The Keperani Empire has been systematically destroying Velashan sites for centuries, fearing the day humans would reclaim their inheritance. The water people have protected you, without your knowledge, understanding what you truly are. New alarms began sounding outside the ship. Through their communicators, they could hear Admiral Lee shouting orders to his fleet. "We're detecting weapons charging on the Keferani ships," Jin Woo reported. "They're not here for peaceful research. Guardian 7's. Expression grew grave. "The test begins now. Your ancestors failed because they believed power meant isolation. You must prove that you have learned from their mistakes." "What test?" Hana asked, but the holographic figure was already fading. "Use what you have learned," Guardian 7 said as the image disappeared. "Choose wisely. The future of the galaxy depends on your decisions in the next few hours." The chamber fell into relative darkness, leaving only the soft glow from the control panels. Outside, Hana could hear the sound of military preparations and the unmistakable charge-up noise of weapon systems. "Hana!" Admiral Lee's voice crackled urgently through the communicator. "You need to get out of there now. The Keferani are demanding we surrender the ship to Coalition authority, and they're backing up their demands with battleships." Hana looked at the now-dark console where Guardian 7 had appeared. "Admiral, I think we're about to find out why this ship was hidden for so long." The control chamber came alive with humming sounds as Hana walked up to the central console again. Guardian 7 appeared with more clarity than before. His ancient features looked sharp with urgency. "The Keferani fleet carries weapons that can crack this planet," he said without waiting. "They have done this before to prevent inheritance awakenings." "Inheritance awakenings?" Daeho asked. He was still studying the wall panels that were now showing what looked like genetic sequences. "There are 47 cache worlds scattered throughout the galaxy, each containing preserved Velashan technology and knowledge. This is the first to be properly activated by human descendants." So Young's voice crackled through their communicators. "I'm reading massive energy signatures from multiple sections of the ship. It's like the whole vessel is coming online." Guardian 7 gestured, and the chamber's walls became see-through, showing them a view of the surface above. Dozens of Coalition ships surrounded the dig site, with the distinctive angular hulls of Keferani battleships standing out among them. "Your genetic markers indicate a particularly pure lineage," Guardian 7 said to Hana. "You are what the Velashan called a pathfinder. Your DNA carries command-level access to all inheritance systems." Jin Woo was scanning the tactical display that had appeared on one of the wall panels. "The Keferani are moving into attack formation. Admiral Lee is trying to negotiate, but they're not listening. They cannot allow this awakening to proceed," Guardian 7 explained. "The Keferani Empire built their power on the assumption that humans would never reclaim their birthright. They have spent millennia ensuring that inheritance sites remained hidden or destroyed." Hana studied the genetic displays that Daeho was examining. The sequences were incredibly complex, but certain patterns seemed familiar in a way she could not explain. "What exactly did we inherit?" she asked. Guardian 7's expression grew serious. "The knowledge to reshape worlds, technology to travel between stars in moments rather than years, weapons that could destroy entire solar systems, and the wisdom to understand why such power must be used carefully." "And the Velashan Empire fell despite having all this?" "Because they became isolated. They believed their advanced technology made them superior to all other life forms. They stopped learning, stopped growing, stopped adapting. When the cosmic crisis came, they had no allies and no flexibility." Daeho looked up from the genetic displays. "These markers, they're not just in humans, are they?" Guardian 7 nodded approvingly. "Very good observation. The Velashan seeded multiple species with genetic gifts, though humans received the most complete heritage. The water people carry enhanced pattern recognition abilities. The peace-loving Zentaur have improved empathic connections. Even some crystal people lines show traces of enhanced mathematical intuition." "So we're all connected," Hana realized. The final test of the inheritance protocols requires cooperation between species carrying Velashan markers. No single race can activate the full cache systems alone. A new alarm began sounding throughout the ship. Guardian 7's form flickered as if the ship's power was being diverted. "Admiral Lee to away team," their communicators crackled. "The Keparani have issued an ultimatum. Surrender the ship and all humans aboard, or they open fire in 10 minutes. Jinwoo's tactical display showed the massive firepower aimed at their Y position. They have enough weaponry to turn this entire area into molten glass. There are defensive systems, Guardian 7 said, but activating them would confirm the Kefarani's worst fears about human inheritance of Velashan military technology. Hana felt the weight of decision settling on her shoulders. What kind of defensive systems? Guardian 7 gestured, and the displays showed technical specifications that made Jinwoo whistle in amazement. Energy shields that could deflect, planetary bombardment, gravity weapons that could disable entire fleets without destroying them, transportation technology that could move the ship instantly to any point in the galaxy. But using them proves we're a threat, Hana said. Exactly. The Velashan face the same choice near the end of their empire. Use their superior technology to dominate potential threats, or find another way to coexist. What did they choose? Domination. It was their final mistake. Daeho had found another console that was displaying star maps. These other cache worlds, what's on them? Each contains different aspects of Velashan knowledge. Scientific databases, technological blueprints, cultural archives, and most importantly, the complete history of their mistakes. So Young's voice came through urgently. The Kefarani ships are charging their main weapons. Whatever you're going to do, you need to do it fast. Hana looked at Guardian 7. Is there another option, something besides surrender or defensive action? There is a third path, but it requires something the Velashan never learned to do properly, which is ask for help. The idea was so simple it was revolutionary. Instead of facing the crisis as humans alone, they could include their alien teammates as full partners in the inheritance process. The cache systems can be shared, Guardian 7 continued. The Velashan designed them to be activated by cooperation between different species carrying genetic markers. But they never actually tried it. Their pride prevented true partnership. You mean Thelquin and Fluxaran could help activate the ship's systems? More than help. The inheritance protocols require input from multiple Velashan-influenced species to unlock the higher functions. Hana activated her communicator. Admiral Lee, I need Thelquin and Fluxaran brought into the ship immediately. Dr. Kim, we don't have time for additional research. The Keparani attack begins in 6 minutes. Admiral, trust me. This is our way out. While they waited for the alien researchers, Guardian 7 showed them more of the ship's capabilities. The vessel was not just a storage place for technology, but a living archive of galactic history. It contained detailed records of thousands of civilizations, including many that had been deliberately erased from Coalition records. The Kefarani have been manipulating galactic history for over 1 million years, Guardian 7 explained. They systematically destroyed evidence of Velashan influence to maintain their position as the dominant military power. Thelquin and Fluxaran arrived through the hull opening, their expressions showing a mixture of wonder and concern. The energy readings from this vessel are beyond our comprehension, Thelquin said in his careful human speech. Because your people helped design it, Guardian 7 replied, appearing to them for the first time. Fluxaran's form rippled with shock. The first travelers, the legends are true. Your species carry Velashan genetic gifts. Guardian 7 confirmed. Thelquin, your mathematical intuition. Fluxaran, your pattern recognition abilities. Combined with human creativity and determination, you can access systems that no single species could operate alone. 4 minutes to Kefarani. Attack, Jinwoo reported. Guardian 7 gestured to 3 different consoles around the chamber. Each of you must activate your species interface simultaneously. This will unlock the ship's diplomatic protocols, something the Velashan never used but built into every cache ship. Hana moved to the central console while Thelquin and Fluxaran took their positions. What do these diplomatic protocols do? They broadcast the complete historical record of Kefarani manipulation to every species in the coalition simultaneously, along with proof of the genetic connections between multiple races. And that will stop them from attacking? Guardian 7's smile was ancient and knowing. It will give the coalition something more valuable than any weapon, the truth. 2 minutes until the Kefarani open fire, Jin Wu announced. His voice was tense as he watched the displays that showed the enemy ships. Hana looked at Thelquin and Fluxaran, who were standing at their control panels. The crystal person and the water person looked back at her with what she had learned to recognize as determination in their alien features. "Are you sure about this?" Thelquin asked. His hands floated over the glowing symbols on his console. "No," Hana admitted. "But Guardian 7 is right. The Velashan tried to face everything alone, and they failed. Maybe it's time to try something different." Guardian 7 appeared between them. His ancient face looked serious. "The diplomatic protocol will not just broadcast historical records. It will reveal the genetic connections between your species to the entire galaxy. This cannot be undone." "What does that mean for us?" Fluxaran asked. "It means the end of the current galactic power structure. Many species will discover they share common origins. Others will learn they have been manipulated for thousands of years. The coalition as it exists now will not survive this revelation." Daeho looked up from another console where he had been studying technical readouts. "But something better could replace it? Or something much worse?" Guardian 7 replied honestly. "That is the test. The Velashan built these systems to determine whether their descendants had learned wisdom along with power." Admiral Lee's voice crackled through their communicators. 1 minute 30 seconds. The Kefarani are refusing all communication. We're detecting massive energy buildup in their primary weapons." Hana placed her hands on her console, feeling the familiar tingle of the ship's response to her touch. "Everyone ready?" "Wait." So Young's voice came through urgently. "I'm detecting something else. The ship is running some kind of analysis program." Guardian 7 nodded. "The inheritance protocols include a final evaluation. The ship is checking whether your species have truly evolved beyond Velashan limitations." "What kind of evaluation?" Thelquin asked. "It is measuring your willingness to sacrifice personal advantage for collective benefit, to choose cooperation over domination, to share power rather than hoard it." New displays lit up around the chamber, showing complex probability, calculations, and behavioral analyses. The ship was somehow evaluating not just their immediate actions, but the psychological patterns that would determine their long-term choices. 30 seconds, Jin Wu reported. "The evaluation is complete," Guardian 7 announced. "You have passed the first threshold. The ship recognizes genuine cooperation between species. But there is one final test." The displays changed, showing them 3 different options. The first showed defensive systems that could protect them from the Kefarani attack. The second showed weapons that could disable the attacking fleet. The third showed the diplomatic protocol that would broadcast the truth to the galaxy. "Choose," Guardian 7 said simply. "What happens if we choose the defensive systems?" Hana asked. "You survive, but the Kefarani return with larger fleets. The cache remains hidden, and nothing changes. The weapons option: you defeat this threat, but prove to the galaxy that humans with Velashan technology are indeed dangerous. Other species unite against you." "And the diplomatic protocol?" "The truth spreads, but you have no guarantee how the galaxy will react. It could lead to cooperation or chaos." 15 seconds. Jin Wu called out. Hana looked at her alien colleagues. Thelquin's crystal features reflected the console lights as he calculated probabilities. Fluxaurin's fluid form rippled with the rapid pattern analysis his species was known for. 10 seconds. "I vote for the truth," Thelquin said suddenly. "The crystal people have always valued knowledge over security." "The water people agree," Fluxaurin added. "Patterns hidden in darkness only grow more twisted." 5 seconds. Hana looked at Guardian 7. "If we choose the diplomatic protocol, what guarantee do we have that it will work?" "None. That is what makes it a test of wisdom rather than intelligence." 2 seconds. Hana made her choice and pressed her hands down hard on the diplomatic protocol console. Thelquin and Fluxaurin activated their interfaces at the same time. The ship erupted with power. Energy raced through every system as the three different species' genetic gifts combined. Mathematical precision from the crystal people, pattern recognition from the water people, and creative problem-solving from humans merged into something greater than the sum of its parts. Above them, the chamber's ceiling became see-through, showing them a view of space filled with coalition ships. Streams of information began flowing from the cache ship to every vessel in the fleet, then spreading outward at faster-than-light speeds to every inhabited system in the galaxy. "Admiral Lee to all ships," their communicators crackled. "The Kefrani have stopped their attack. They're receiving the same data transmission we are." The information flow was staggering. Complete historical records of galactic civilizations going back millions of years. Genetic analyses showing the connections between dozens of species. Most damaging of all, detailed records of Kefrani manipulation and cover-ups spanning their entire history as a galactic power. "This is incredible," So Young's voice came through, filled with wonder. "The language connections alone prove that dozens of species share common origins. The implications for galactic cooperation are enormous." But Guardian 7 was watching. "Other displays," his expression troubled. "The immediate response is positive, but the ship's projections show significant upheaval ahead. Many governments will fall when their populations learn the truth. There will be conflict before there is peace." "More conflict than if we had chosen the weapons?" Hana asked. "No. Less overall violence, but distributed over a longer period as societies adapt to new knowledge." Jinwu's tactical display showed coalition ships throughout the system standing down their weapons. "The Kefrani fleet is withdrawing, but I'm detecting emergency transmissions between their ships. They're reporting back to their empire." "They will attempt to suppress this information," Guardian 7 predicted. "But it is too late. The truth has reached every major population center in the galaxy." Fluxaurin's form brightened as his pattern recognition abilities processed the data streams. "The genetic connections reveal something remarkable. Nearly every spacefaring species carries some trace of Velashan influence. We are all related, however distantly." "That was the Velashan's greatest achievement," Guardian 7 explained. "Not their technology or their empire, but their gift of potential to countless species. They seeded the galaxy with the genetic foundations for intelligence, cooperation, and growth. And their greatest failure was not trusting those gifts to mature naturally," Thelquin observed. "Exactly. They tried to maintain control instead of allowing their children to develop independently." Admiral Lee's voice came through with barely contained excitement. "Dr. Kim, we're receiving communications from the peaceful Zentar homeworld. They're confirming parts of this historical record that they've kept hidden for centuries. The truth is being verified by multiple independent sources." Hana felt the ship's energy settling into a steady hum around them. "Guardian 7, what happens now?" "Now you begin the real work. This cache contains coordinates to the other inheritance sites. Each one holds different aspects of Velashan knowledge, but accessing them will require continued cooperation between species and the Kefrani. Their empire was built on lies and manipulation. Those foundations are crumbling as we speak, but they still have significant military power and will not surrender their position easily." Daeho had been studying the technical specifications that were still flowing through the ship's systems. This technology could revolutionize everything. Transportation, energy production, planetary engineering. We could transform the galaxy. If you can avoid the Velashan's mistakes, Guardian 7 warned. Power without wisdom leads to isolation. Technology without cooperation breeds conflict. Then we'd better get it right, Hana said, looking at her human and alien colleagues. All of us together. 3 weeks after the awakening, the cash ship had become the center of the largest peaceful gathering in galactic history. Representatives from over 200 species surrounded the dig site, their ships forming a massive space conference. Center above Kepler 442b Hana stood in the ship's main assembly hall, a vast chamber that Guardian 7 had revealed once the diplomatic protocols were fully activated. The space could hold thousands of beings, with environmental systems that automatically adjusted to the needs of different species. The genetic analysis results are final, Dr. So Young announced to the gathered representatives. 47 species show clear evidence of Velashan genetic influence. Another 112 show possible secondary connections through contact between species over millions of years. Ambassador Velthara of the Crystal People spoke from her crystal platform. This explains much about our mathematical intuition that we believed was natural evolution. Representative Flux then rippled in agreement. The Water People archives now make sense. We preserved knowledge of the first travelers because we were meant to remember. Admiral Lee, now serving as the human representative to the Emergency Coalition Assembly, gestured to the star maps that filled the chamber's walls. Guardian 7 has provided coordinates to 46 additional cache sites. Each one contains specialized knowledge that could benefit all species, but only if we work together, added Daeho, who had become the chief technical liaison for the Inheritance Project. The ship's systems require genetic input from multiple species to function at full capacity. The Keperani delegation sat in hostile silence at the far end of the chamber. Their empire was crumbling as subject worlds learned the truth about their manipulation, but they still commanded significant military forces. General Kefthul, their chief representative, finally spoke. This archaeological discovery does not change the reality of galactic power structures. The Keferani Empire has maintained order for 1,000,000 years. Order built on lies, said Ambassador Yun Ara of the Peaceful Zentar Collective. Her species had revealed their own hidden archives once the truth protocols activated. We have proof of Keferani suppression dating back 800,000 years. Guardian 7 appeared in the center of the assembly, his ancient presence commanding instant attention. The Keferani fear change because their empire depends on maintaining artificial scarcity. Velashan technology could make energy and resources abundant for all species. And what of humanity? General Kefthul demanded. Will you claim dominion over this technology because of your genetic connections? Hana stepped forward, feeling the weight of history on her shoulders. The decision she made now would echo through the galaxy for generations. No, she said simply. We propose something that the Velashan never tried. True partnership. The chamber fell silent as she continued. The inheritance caches will be administered by a joint council representing all species with genetic markers. No single race will control access to the technology. Impossible, General Kefethul scoffed. Such cooperation cannot be maintained. The Velashan thought the same thing, Guardian 7 replied. Their isolation led to their downfall. Perhaps their descendants can succeed where they failed. Jinwu had been analyzing power distributions among the assembled fleets. The military balance has already shifted. Most coalition species are supporting the partnership proposal. The Keferani can either join the new order or find themselves increasingly isolated. Thelquin had been calculating probabilities on his console. The mathematical models support cooperation. Resource sharing through Velashan technology would benefit all species more than continued competition. Easy calculations, General Kefthul said. But what happens when species disagree? Who makes the final decisions? We do, Fluxaran replied, his pattern recognition abilities having identified a crucial insight. All of us together. The ship's decision-making protocols require consensus between genetic lineages. Guardian 7 nodded approvingly. The Velashan designed their systems to prevent any single group from dominating. Accessing the advanced technologies requires genuine cooperation, not just temporary alliance. Dr. So Young had been working with the ship's language systems to translate concepts between species. We're proposing the formation of the Inheritance Council, equal representation for all species with genetic markers, with decisions requiring cooperation rather than majority rule. And enforcement, General Kefthul asked. The technology itself provides enforcement, Deho explained. Try to use Velashan systems for conquest or domination, and they shut down. The safeguards are built into the genetic access protocols. Ambassador Velthara's crystal form chimed with what Hana had learned was excitement. This would revolutionize cooperation between species, shared resources, combined knowledge, mutual advancement, or mutual destruction, General Kefthul warned. What happens when this council fails? When cooperation breaks down? Hana looked around the chamber at the dozens of different species, each with their own concerns and ambitions. Then we'll have failed the same test that destroyed the Velashan. Empire. But at least we'll have tried something different. Admiral Lee stepped forward. The Human Defense Fleet supports the Inheritance Council proposal. We're prepared to place all Velashan-related discoveries under joint authority. One by one, other species added their support. The Crystal People with their mathematical precision, the Water People with their pattern analysis, the peaceful Zentar with their empathic wisdom. Even species with only minor genetic markers voted to join the new cooperative structure. The Kefarani Empire will not be bound by the decisions of this illegal assembly, General Kefthul declared, rising to leave. Then the Kefarani Empire will find itself increasingly irrelevant, Guardian 7 said calmly. The universe is changing, General. You can adapt or be left behind. As the Kefarani delegation departed, Hana felt a mixture of relief and worry. They had chosen cooperation over conquest, but the real work was just beginning. Guardian 7, she asked, will this actually work? Can so many different species really cooperate long-term? I do not know, the ancient intelligence replied honestly. The Velashan never tried it. But you have something they lacked. What's that? Humility. You understand that you are not superior to other species, merely different. That wisdom might be enough. Over the following days, the first joint expeditions departed for other cache sites. Mixed crews of humans, crystal people, water people, and other species worked together to unlock technologies that had been waiting for millions of years. Jin Wu reported from the first successful activation. The cache at Sigma Draconis contains complete terraforming systems. We could turn barren worlds into gardens in decades instead of centuries. Deho transmitted from another site. The engineering database here has designs for ships that could cross the galaxy in days, but the construction requires resources from 17 different species working together. Perfect, Hana said, watching the coordination efforts from the main cache ship. The Velashan built cooperation into every system. Guardian 7 appeared beside her, watching the bustling activity throughout the ship. Your species has exceeded my expectations. The test was not just about activating the diplomatic protocols. What do you mean? The real test was whether you would choose to share power once you had it. The Velashan always intended their descendants to surpass them, but they could never have imagined this level of cooperation between species. Hana looked out at the mixed crews working together throughout the ship. Humans and aliens learning from each other, combining their strengths to unlock secrets that had been hidden for millions of years. What happens to you now? She asked Guardian 7. Your mission is complete. The ancient figure smiled. an expression of peace crossing his features. My mission was to preserve Velashan knowledge until it could be safely inherited. But perhaps I can serve a new purpose, which is helping to ensure that the new galactic order succeeds where the old empire failed. The universe is vast, and there are still many mysteries to uncover. Hana nodded, feeling the ship hum with purposeful energy around them. The Velashan had reached across millions of years to give their descendants a second chance. Now it was up to all the species of the galaxy to prove they were worthy of that trust. Outside, the stars waited with infinite patience for the next chapter of galactic history to begin.